गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीबॉडी। हम डिक्टेशन स्टार्ट करते हैं सेम प्रोसेस को कंटिन्यू करते हुए। 3 सेट की डिक्टेशन होगी जिसमें एक स्पीड 100 प्लस रखी जाएगी, 110 के आसपास वर्ड 1200 डिक्टेट किए जाएंगे। अगर फ्लक्चुएशंस आपकी लगभग 110 तक जाती है, 115 तक जाती है, तो ये सेट आपके लिए बेस्ट होगा। 1200 वर्ड का स्टार्टअप इसलिए करा रहा हूँ ताकि आप जब वहाँ पे 1000 वर्ड को टाइप करें या डिक्टेशन नोट डाउन करें तो आपको प्रेशर फील ना हो, आपको कंफर्टेबल फील हो। सेकंड सेट आपको रखा जाएगा 100 के आसपास, जिसके अंदर 1000 प्लस वर्ड डिक्टेट किए जाएंगे, 1040 के आसपास। एंड द थर्ड वन होगा 80 के टारगेट करते हुए, जिसके अंदर जो है 800 प्लस वर्ड को डिक्टेट करूंगा। कंटेंट का सोर्स कॉमन रखा जाएगा। आप रेडी हो? स्टार्ट करते हैं। स्टार्ट इट। Mr. Deputy Chairman, I would like to offer some remarks on this industrial disputes banking companies decision amendment bill 2008. As we all know, in India since 1939, since the commencement of the Second World War, prices of food grains and other articles which are necessary for life are going up and up with such a speed that there is no knowing where the prices will stop increasing. The base year 2000 has been taken into consideration for calculating the basic wage and dearness allowance, especially with regard to the bank employees. Even that base we are not going to dream of. The prices are going up. In addition to this, we have embarked upon development activities. The 8th 5-year plan has been over and we are in the midst of the 9th 5-year plan. We are all certain that a number of 5-year plans will have to be undertaken by government, and with the increasing activities under a planned program and with government restoring to deficit financing, the prices of articles will go up and the inflationary tendencies will be there. It is dead certain that the prices of food grains or any article of necessity will never under any circumstance reach the level of 1994. I would like to impress therefore that this dearness allowance, which is meant to be a temporary allowance for a particular purpose to neutralize the cost of living that has gone up because of the rise in prices, has become almost a permanent feature. I therefore urge that this dearness allowance, at least a major portion, should be merged in the basic pay of the employees. It is not only the employees of the banking concerns, but the employees of the state governments and the employees of the central government have all along put up this plea that a major portion of the dearness allowance should be merged with the basic pay. By doing that, the employees in the banking concerns as well as the employees in other government departments will be benefited to a large extent, and the government are not going to lose anything at present. They will have to pay either in the form of basic pay or basic pay plus dearness allowance the same amount, but certain benefits that will accrue will be denied. Mr. Justice Desai in his report has stated clearly that a rise in prices will have a greater adverse effect on the lower income groups working in the banks as well as in other government departments. That is why he has evolved a formula that for a particular class of employees, bank employees, a certain proportion or ratio should be calculated in arriving at the dearness allowance. For the category of clerical staff, 1/7 of the basic pay of the bank employees will be raised in the dearness allowance for a rise of every 10 points in the cost of living. What I would like to impress on the government is that the bulk of the employees are there and the cost of living will have great adverse effects on this large chunk of bank employees. This 1/7 that has been allowed under this formula will not be sufficient to neutralize the rise in prices of necessary articles. This question of amending this particular section is there, that every rise or fall of 10 points in the cost of living should within the 3 months or quarterly allow the bank or the bank employees to get either a rise or fall in the dearness allowance calculated on the basic pay sanctioned. I therefore urge, sir, that instead of 1/7, 1/5 of the rise should be allowed. If that is done, a large section of the bank employees who are getting less than the minimum wage will be benefited. For the second category of the employees, the subordinate staff, 1/10 of the rise is allowed. Even here, I would urge that it should be increased to 1/7 so that the high cost of living that is going on today will be offset by the rise in the dearness allowance that has been suggested by me. Another point to be taken into consideration is this: the All India Cost of Living Index is not so perfect and is not so reliable as has been pointed out by the previous speakers. On another occasion, the statistical figures that have been supplied to us have been questioned. Many a time, this cost of living index that has been shown in the government register does not really reflect the actual cost of living that is obtaining in particular areas. Many a time, the cost of living is calculated on the basis of wholesale figures. I would therefore urge that the Labour Ministry should interest itself in calculating this cost of living index on a more reasonable and realistic basis. Many a time, this All India Cost of Living Index is deceptive. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, I thought that the explanation that I had given was a comprehensive explanation and that it will not lead to so much of discussion on the points that had already been clarified in my exposition. But honorable members still raised some doubts about the measure. So far as imports of goods are concerned, it is not possible for imports to take place in anticipation of getting an import license. This measure, as the honorable member sitting there pointed out, is an enabling measure. The customs collectors have already a discretion in the matter and they have been exercising this discretion for years, and because the honorable member sitting there has got some practical experience of how this discretion is exercised at the ports, he has said that this will mitigate the difficulties that are being undergone by the importers and exporters. And as I pointed out in my speech, sir, when this discretion was stopped for the time being, all the traders and representatives of the trading sections met and expressed their acute difficulties in this regard, that they were not able to move forward in regard to export or import, especially with regard to the export of tea. Perhaps you know, sir, that for tea the license can be sold and purchased in the market. If somebody has got an export license and he has not been able to arrange the goods, he can sell this license in the market and somebody else can purchase it. The time lag between the purchase and export of tea from here and the auctions abroad is always naturally short, and sometimes it became very difficult to export it in time because auctions take place abroad, and in that auctioning period certain commitments are made and then the things have to be supplied in a definite period. Now in that period, if a licensee has not got the actual possession of the license but he is sure to get it, in such a case the customs authorities have been exercising their discretion and taking the responsibility on their own shoulders. They have been doing this thing for years, and this measure only gives legal sanctity to what they have been doing. As I said, under executive orders, they were exercising their own discretion in the matter. They have been accepting these bonds, taking the responsibility upon themselves. ये जो आपको कंटेंट बोला गया है केसी का 385 और 386 नंबर है. टोटल जो वर्ड इसके अंदर डिक्टेट किए गए हैं वो 1200 वर्ड डिक्टेट है एज पर द 1240 वर्ड है एज पर द बुक. और जो आपको इसके अंदर स्पीड है वो 110 प्लस की स्पीड है. फ्लक्चुएशन 115 तक की है. अगर आपने अच्छा लिखा तो आप इसको टाइप कर सकते हो. अगर आप इसको टाइप कर पा रहे हो तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आप सी को इजीली कन्वर्ट कर ले जा रहे हो. नेक्स्ट कंटेंट हो, कई बार फ्लक्चुएशन ज़्यादा के साथ आ जाता है. नेक्स्ट कंटेंट भी आपको सी को टारगेट करके ही बोलूँगा मैं. 100 के आसपास की स्पीड रखूँगा उसको. ये सेफ जोन है एकदम और वो क्वालिफाइंग जोन रहेगा आपका. रेडी. सुप्रीम कोर्ट की कंटेंट के पर्पज से भी, क्योंकि इसके अंदर भी जनरल कंटेंट आया हुआ था, तो आपका पर्पज उसको भी फुलफिल करता है क्योंकि फ्लक्चुएशन उसमें ज़्यादा रखी गई है, काफ़ी ज़्यादा. Started. Sir, this is the 10th report that has come before the Honorable House for its comments. We are aware, sir, that on previous occasions certain matters were discussed, and I am very happy to find that the UPSC have acknowledged the full cooperation which the ministries and the departments have given them in carrying out their duties. So far as the present report is concerned, it has mentioned certain circumstances which have to be looked into very carefully. It has also pointed out certain difficulties in getting the full strength from recruitment. It has also pointed out certain irregularities. Lastly, only in one case out of 15,000 that has been referred to the UPSC, there had been a difference of opinion and the government had to depart from their advice and take action on the lines that have been pointed out in the memorandum. Thus, you will find, sir, that there has been the fullest measure of cooperation from the government, as they are anxious that the views expressed and the recommendations made by the UPSC should receive the fullest respect and that as far as possible they should be implemented. Sir, in the course of the report, they have pointed out that in certain cases they find it difficult to make recruitment. They have mentioned 3 cases One is with regard to the scheduled castes and tribes. You are aware, sir, that in respect of the scheduled castes and tribes, whenever there is to be direct recruitment, a certain percentage has been fixed. It is quite different in the case of All India services. It is still higher in the case of other services that have to be dealt with. In all these cases, whenever there has been such a reservation, the UPSC have been requested to follow what are known as relaxed standards, provided they feel that after taking into account the relaxed standards, the particular candidates come up to the minimum prescribed qualifications. As the House is aware, the UPSC have been given this discretion and they have been using it quite fully, but all the same they have to point out, as they have done in this report, that there are occasions when the recruitment or the quota that has to be filled. So far as the scheduled castes and tribes are concerned, does not come up to the requirement that is given, though no reference has been made here. They have also pointed out that the complaint, or rather the deficiency, was very great so far as the All India services were concerned. It was true that in certain cases they came from families where the environment was not what it ought to have been, and therefore on earlier occasions expression was given in this house as in the other that some arrangement should be made for the purpose of giving tuition to some of those candidates who were likely to appear at these All India competitive examinations. This question was taken up with the various universities. It was the Allahabad University that agreed to have such a course of tuition, and I am aware that the course of training through which the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe candidates have gone during the year has been of immense value in respect of their general training. They have come up fairly high and the results are far better even at the final All India competitive examinations than they were formerly. That is a step that the government have especially taken for them. In our respects also, wherever it is possible, it is the desire of the government to see that such special tuition or training is offered to those classes of people for whom some reservation has been made. But still, candidates to the extent of a suitable number are not available in spite of all the attempts made in that direction. Then they have pointed out that in certain cases, especially where government servants have to be appointed at such distant places as Manipur or Tripura, the northeastern states, or at Pondicherry also, candidates are not forthcoming for serving in those areas. In fact, this is one of the great difficulties so far as these states are concerned. As the House is aware, we are anxious to see that the tune of administration there improved to the fullest measure, and that it comes at par with that of the other enlightened states of India. Therefore, special steps are being taken all the same in spite of certain alluring concessions that are made to them. The number of candidates that are ready to serve in those distant areas is not very large. Therefore, the UPSC has expressed that in such cases it finds it difficult to get the full strength and submit the figures. Similarly, also there are certain fields in technology and others where it becomes difficult to get good candidates. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, I would at the outset like to thank the honorable members who have taken part in this discussion for drawing the attention of this House to a very valuable report. The fact that he himself has contributed to this report does not in any way minimize the importance of this reference, because this report deals with a subject which is of very great importance. But because it has not any immediate sensational impact, there is sometimes a tendency for such reports to be overlooked, and from that point of view, Sri Bhargava certainly deserves the thanks of this House, and I think the thanks of my ministry for having drawn its pointed attention to this report. Sir, he has given the history of how the Vigyan Mandir scheme began. I do not want to go into very great detail of that, but the honorable members of this House will remember that the idea was originally mooted in 1983. There was only one institution established at that time. The main purpose was to bring about a scientific atmosphere in our villages. They are not so much service institutions. Sir, some of the remarks which were made today probably suffered from misunderstanding on that point, and one honorable member, a very distinguished member of this House, was surprised as to how a single officer could perform so many functions efficiently. ये जो कंटेंट आपको बोला गया है, 216 और 217 नंबर से बोला गया है. इसके अंदर लगभग आपको 1060 प्लस वर्ड बोले गए हैं. स्पीड इसकी 100 की है. फुल स्टॉप का गैप दिया गया है जहाँ पर फुल स्टॉप का था. अब आप इसको अगर अच्छे लिखे हो तो टाइप करेंगे, अदरवाइज आप 80 के कंटेंट के हिसाब से नेक्स्ट डिक्टेशन लिखेंगे. इसी को कंटिन्यू करेंगे, इसी वीडियो को. रेडी? नंबर आपको क्लियर हो गया होगा. नंबर इसका 216 और 217, 216 217 नंबर है, और 1060 प्लस वर्ड है, 100 की स्पीड है. केसी सोर्स है. स्टार्ट. नेक्स्ट वन. In the course of the discussion, it has been very ably pointed out by a large number of speakers as to how the rubber industry is in the grip of certain foreign elements and Indian monopolists at the top. We know that there are small planters and producers, but the hold of the Dunlop company was also mentioned. So far as the big industries are concerned, it has been their policy to capitalize the money and to put money in the reserve fund instead of utilizing such funds and profits for improvement of the working classes and for the betterment of the laborers. It was pointed out yesterday that the Dunlop company gave very high dividends. You will be shocked to know that while the company had money to declare a dividend of 40% and also to capitalize a part of the profits, it did not give at all a fair deal to the workers. On the contrary, they were kept at more or less the same old level, where they had a kind of labor, practically speaking. Therefore, it becomes necessary to look into this matter. Sir, we are interested in the increase in production and everybody is interested in the increase in production. The production of rubber, coffee, or of any other essential commodities or imported commodities must undoubtedly be increased in the country. But merely by appointing a board or by taking certain powers into the government's hands or investing the board with such powers, you cannot ensure increase in production. There may be slight improvement here and there, but materially you cannot alter the situation unless and until you inspire the real producers by making them see through their own life's experience that increase of production means a constant rise in their standard of living, in their material and cultural well-being. Now, that is why I say that it is very essential when the board is really being given certain powers for looking after the interests of the working class. To make these powers effective and to make them effective would be to ask the board to work for the increase of the wages of the rubber workers or the laborers who work in that particular industry. Now, that is not there. It is a very unhappy omission and a very sad omission if the intention of the bill is good. Sir, as you know, we had been told in the recent days very much about socialism, and we are not talking about socialism in its big aspects here at all. This is not our concern here. But if you at all really have such feelings, if you think that socialism is something which one has to swear by, even though the ideas of socialism were first propagated 1 century ago, then give some expression to it. But we know that there will not be socialism at all under you. All that we say is, if you swear by socialism, talk about socialism, if the members of that side of the house go to some other houses and hear lectures very seriously, they should come here and tell us that they are also going to increase the wages of the workers when such measures are brought up. Such occasions are good occasions for them to begin to cultivate this thing, because you have yet to learn the ABC of socialism first, and you cannot write a book or a poem or an article straight away, and we do not expect you to do it either. But if you are really sincere about what you are talking, you should try to learn the ABC, that is to say, begin with giving the workers a fair deal, giving them a living wage, and dealing with the workers here in this bill. You should make provisions for them. I do not suggest to the minister that in this bill there should be provision that so much wages shall be given to the rubber plantation worker, or fix a scale and all that sort of thing. All that I have proposed in this amendment is that the board should be given that reorientation of outlook should be given, the direction that the wages have to be increased and that they have to consciously work for it. That is all that I demand in this amendment. Sir, we do not like that our workers should be exploited by the people, and he will not deny, because it has been pointed out from that side of the house also that huge profits are being amassed. They cannot spend the money, the British who are earning out of this. Industry cannot spend the money. With all their luxury and extravagance, they cannot spend that money here in this country. They send this money abroad. Even then, they retain some money in their hands. They would rather keep them in banks idle than give this money to the workers for bettering their lot, for improving their conditions, which determines in the final analysis whether the production of the country would go up or not. ये जो कंटेंट आपको बोला गया है 94 नंबर है केसी का, 80 की स्पीड है और लगभग 840 प्लस वर्ड है। अगर आपने जो अच्छा लिखा है वो टाइप करेंगे, फुल स्टॉप को गैप दिया गया है, एसएससी के हिसाब से अच्छा कंटेंट है, डिक्टेशन के पर्पज से भी टाइप कीजिएगा आप इसको। अगर कुछ बच्चे इस फेज़ में है कि नहीं टाइप कर सकते अभी भी, तो आपको सजेस्ट किया जाएगा कि आप सीन कंटेंट की डिक्टेशन एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट करें टाइप करनी, क्योंकि सीन कंटेंट टाइप करने का समय खत्म हो चुका है। मैं सजेस्ट बल्कि आपको अनसीन कंटेंट को करूँगा। अनसीन कंटेंट का पर्पज़ मेरा है जो आपने हाल फिलहाल में 5-7 दिन के अंदर कंटेंट नहीं लिखा, उसको हम अनसीन कंटेंट के रूप में रखेंगे। और प्योरली अनसीन कंटेंट वो होता है जो आपने कभी प्रैक्टिस ही नहीं किया। साउंड सिस्टम बेस होती है स्टेनोग्राफी, इसलिए सीन अनसीन का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट मेरे हिसाब से नहीं होता। जब आप साउंड सिस्टम पर काम करते हो तो आप हर वर्ड को प्रॉपर वे में बना सकते हो। थैंक यू।